Hey everyone. All right, so today's lesson is on limiting factors. Okay, so let's get started. So a limiting factor is an environmental resource, feature, or condition that affects how many organisms that environment can support. There are two different types of limiting factors. There's biotic limiting factors, which are like living things, and then there's also abiotic limiting factors, which are non-living things that can affect how many organisms an environment can support. So examples of biotic or living things that can affect how many organisms there are in an environment are competition, disease, parasites, like food, and then human activity. And then abiotic limiting factors are sunlight, temperature, natural disasters, shelter, and water. So what is the biggest difference between biotic and abiotic limiting factors? Well, the biggest difference here is that biotic factors have limiting factors have to do with living things that affect the number of organisms in an ecosystem, and abiotic factors are uh, things that are non-living that can affect the number of organisms um, that can be in an environment. Okay. So question number one said, which of the following is not an example of a limiting factor? You have options are not enough water, not enough space to live, diseases, or plenty of food. A, B, and C are all limiting factors because all three of those things can affect how many organisms can be able to live and survive in an environment. Plenty of food doesn't limit a population. It actually allows a population to grow. So D would be not an example of a limiting factor. 2. How does overcrowding limit a population? There will not be enough space for the population to grow. There will be too many predators in the ecosystem. It will make the temperature too warm for the population to grow. Or overcrowding is not a limiting factor in an ecosystem. Well, it's obviously there will not be enough space for the population to grow because there's just so many organisms in that population because of overcrowding. 3. A population of fish is growing rapidly, which means that it's growing really, really fast. Over the course of a summer, the temperature of the water rises by 5 degrees Celsius. Many of the fish die. What is the limiting factor on this population? Well, the limiting factor is the temperature of the water, right? Because the temperature of the water is the thing that caused the fish to die. 4. There is a drought in the forest. Remember, drought is when there's not a lot of rain. Because there's no rain for 3 months. Rivers start to dry up. What is the limiting factor on this population? Explain what happens. Well, if the rivers begin to dry up, that means there's not going to be water for the organisms that live in that environment, which means that their populations are going to start to kind of decrease. So your limiting factor in this case is water. 5. In Washington, lumber is another fancy word for wood. Companies cut down large forests full of trees for wood that they can sell. What is the limiting factor in this population? Well, the limiting factor in this population is, human activity, because human activity is causing the number of trees in that forest to decrease, right? Because people are going and cutting those down. Next, limiting factors in the Lake Winnipeg ecosystem. Lake Winnipeg is a lake with two sections, a wide north section and a narrow south section. Lake Winnipeg is 12 meters deep and gets a lot of rain each year. It is home for over 50 types of fish, including yellow perch. So there's a picture of yellow perch right here. This is what a yellow perch looks like. Yellow perch like water that does not flow or move too much. They like very still water. Yellow perch like temperature range of 18 to 20 degrees Celsius. If the temperature of the water goes above this, they will die. Yellow perch eat food from the bottom of Lake Winnipeg. They eat a lot of different types of organisms. Their eyes allow them to see almost all the way around them. In Lake Winnipeg, a fish called a walleye eats yellow perch. They are also caught for food by fishers. Lake Winnipeg provides a home for many types of fish. However, several droughts, not enough water, could change this ecosystem a lot. If there were a drought, Lake Winnipeg's water level would drop. This would also make the temperature of the water change. Name and describe 3 factors that limit the yellow perch population. Well, there's many that we read about. First and foremost is temperature of the water, right? Can affect how many yellow perch can survive in Lake Winnipeg. Um, Human activity, right? So depending on if they're being caught for food or not by the fishers. And then another one is that the number of food available, right? So if there's not a lot of food available in Lake Winnipeg for the yellow perch, then that would also cause the yellow perch to kind of slowly die. All right, well, that's about it for your notes section. Go ahead and press next so that you can move on to your practice.